Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for this, my SRS presentation of Millennium Underground Influences in Late 90s and Early 2000s Independent Hip Hop. The purpose of this project was to explore some of the artistic influences who may have played a role in defining the sound of the underground hip hop movement. Since my presentation primarily focuses on the music itself, feel free to pause and read the poster for further information as I go along. The first influential figures who we'll be taking a look at are composers Philip Glass and musicians Laurie Anderson and Brian Eno. The music of American composer Philip Glass represented a reaction against the overly intellectualized trends of music in Europe during the mid-20th century. Glass's music is characterized by a strong tonal center and highly repetitive rhythms which change gradually over time. As such, his music is very sample-friendly for hip-hop producers, including LP and Blockhead named on the poster. The following are some excerpts from Glass's pieces Lady Day and Offering, which appear respectively on the songs Scream Phoenix, produced by LP, and Basic Cable, produced by Blockhead.
In the beginning, there was no sin. We in the ninth inning, and I'm God body trying to win, flying against the wind. But now my shell is weightless and fireproof. But the truth is, I'm proof of living fire. I'm not
Turn it on, let my little eyes blaze. 20 screens lined up along the borders of the maze. I wanna see the 5-day forecast 14 days in advance so I can get my 2 weeks notice every time the sun bans.
We hear then that Philip Glass's music was so inspirational to such producers that Glass's attorney, in fact, had to send a cease and desist order to put an end to the uncredited usages of his music on such productions. Moving on, we touch on musicians Laurie Anderson and Brian Eno, whose music appears on the Cannibal Ox song Raspberry Fields as produced by LP. These samples are from Brian Eno's. Some of them are old and from Anderson's Sweaters. The following is from Eno. And from Anderson. And here's the finished product from Cannibal Ox's The Cold Vein, the song Raspberry Fields.
Spill off the grill nasty, off the top, then 5 fancy. Fly my strap when I'm blowing earth's color through an eye. A posse that right now with thoughts mega high, ready to pop venomous snakes out the Congo. Or these player out the show with large shell watching. Back in the coldest winters, stabbed with all sorts of stalkers attached to hoods that put low on the goggles. We pigeons and quick talents, Swiss split hours. Now watch me skate over the scene with a mongoose, pop with it, I'll you deuce bottles of frozen wine.
So it is that we see that the producers of underground hip-hop were not shying away from the bizarre or unusual sound effects in their music, such as these. As well, we can see this in the Jedi Mind Trick song Chinese Water Torture, which samples from Laura Olsher, who herself was a sound recording artist who incorporated aspects of both musique concrète and field recording, and we can hear that in the following sample from the Jedi Mind Trick song. Those strange sounds are from Laura Ulsher's 1964 album, Chilling, Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House. Perhaps equally interesting, though, is the usage of traditional classical music in a hip-hop context, as we can see on the song Classic from Hieroglyphics' album Full Circle. This track uses a sample from a transitional passage in the third movement of Haydn's Trumpet Concerto in E-flat major, which we will hear now. So you get the idea, and here we have the finished product in the song Classic.
To make your body jerk, we won't shirk the duty of making you shake the gluteus maximus. Yeah, that's what's up. The music is moving, you need to be catching up. Classical massacres occurs in a flash of blur, smashing right here and then when we clash the words. Adrenaline rush, shatter you fragile gentlemen when I hit them up with agile style venom and change the game like two waves did.
Though these samples represent far-ranging artistic ideals, sometimes it is in the traditional vein of hip-hop back catalog sample production that we find producers finding inspiration. One such case is in Cool Calm Pete's track 2 AM, which uses a sample of a chromatic 3-chord ascending line from the Lost Generations song The Sly, Slick, and the Wicked, as we will hear now.
Young girl, be true, love. Be true.
And then we will hear Cool Calm Pete's song now with the same sample.
Yeah. Yeah. Back. Yeah. Back for a visit, another dose of bad time. You complete the recipe. What's this you chiming? All the selling style like you rhyming. Undermining my movement, blind people shining.
This usage of the Lost Generations track, to me, constitutes a nod to earlier underground performers such as the Lost Generation, whose music didn't necessarily see a wide following. Next, we will look at the lyrical influences that played a role in helping to define the underground's style. The first of those is science fiction novelist Philip K. Dick, who rapper LP cites as an important lyrical influence. Dick was responsible for writing such works as Blade Runner, Total Recall, and Minority Report, and LP states that his works represents a sort of pulp philosophy which informs his lyrical style and production style on the album Fun Crusher Plus by Company Flow. This segment shows that futuristic influence in the production value, as we will hear now.
I hit them off with the fact. Ladies, latest release on cassette. They were done from the start. Ran for the finish, got detour from the fast ride by the number. One spot holder, holding ground for Hogtown. NY, for those who don't acknowledge, they get them gas out like club. Congratulations, man. I made it our way. They don't fall it. And the army's always retreating. The job is not over. You must continue. Please move forward. LP, bring out tactic evasion. Start. Summation ain't no style. Now bail us. We're counting on you.
Contrary to the popular subjects of mainstream hip-hop of the time, we now venture into the realms of fringy, pseudo-religious philosophical ideals vis-a-vis the Lost Children of Babylon, whose lyrical content is derived in part from the highly controversial figure Malachi York. These ideals, along with those of the other figure mentioned in the poster, Val Valerian, represent sort of conspiracy theory, kooky ideals in some way, but we will listen to the Lost Children of Babylon's Egyptian Magic now.
2,000 years, ancient Egyptians believed that their dead set sail on a secret journey to a wondrous afterlife.
Learn hieroglyphics, not just pictures, but a celestial linguistic, not related to a specific terrestrial distance. Ancient Egyptian civilization came from all small people equal to that of Elijah, to guide you from the wilderness to make the pilgrimage.
And then the following sample is from Jedi Mind Tricks track The Coming of Tan, which represents the views of Val Valerian.
Ezekiel, the Pope stands upon the podium, becomes a seat articulate, behold the arrival. Beware the prophecies of the travels, alien spacecraft flying away like sparrows. Study the lost prophetic books of the Bible, parasites from the body energy, spiritual survival. Like this scene in Ezekiel 1:3, granted the Kingo with tapping of destinies. Symbiosis spoke the word of the Bavarian Illuminati. I bring forth harmonics of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
So in closing, I just want to mention that given the variety of influences mentioned here, we see the lengths to which independent hip-hop musicians of the late 90s and early 2000s resorted in distinguishing themselves and setting themselves apart from the hip-hop mainstream. Though the underground movement has since, to some extent, been absorbed into the mainstream hip-hop culture, thanks mainly to the advent of internet streaming, the imprint made by these edgy, outlandish figures who founded the independent rap scene still resonate as wildly original, and the influencing goes on.